Good morning, YouTube. It is 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and we are doing another epoxy bowl project because it's Sunday, and we are doing something a little bit different today. Essentially, things we've done in the past, but we haven't done one of these bowl projects in quite a little while. So I have multiple mica powders, different colors, different varieties, but we haven't done an ink kind of project exclusively in a very long time on the channel. So what we have here is just essentially a black ink, and then we have some blue as well, and we are going to finish it up with a green. And what we're going to do is take some epoxy with multiple colors, mix them up, and then try to get a cool swirling type of effect essentially with this. So you can see here we are almost out of epoxy altogether. I have to go ahead and reorder some. We're going to mix up about, I think this is like 24, I think it's like 16 ounces, 24 ounces. I really don't know. I've been doing this for a very long time and I still can't measure these cups correctly. But I've learned enough to know, I think this is 24 ounces altogether, 8-ounce cups. And we're just going to mix these up really well, putting different colored dyes in each one of these. We're going to mix them all together and get like this cool swirling type of effect with it. And you can see there we got the green, we got the blue, and we're going to finish up with the black, and then we're going to just add a little bit more color to the blue. And then we're going to mix this up real well and see what kind of cool effects we get with it. And the reason why I like using the ink dyes is because it's translucent and you can see through it. So you get this cool swirling type of effect with it. And that tends to add a little bit something extra to it, I think. But this is going to be the main body of the actual bowl itself. And then, of course, we're doing lids now in 2024. And hey, I just noticed, even though time goes by really fast, we're about halfway through the year already. And I can't believe how quickly things have just, gone by. But here we are just mixing everything up. I'm adding a couple of extra drops to the lid there to get a kind of a cool swirling effect. 4.5 hours later out of the pressure pot, and literally 7 days later, this is what the blanks look like after all that time. And it's 100 degrees in West Texas right now, so this is what we're working with, and you can kind of see through them already. Really cool effect. I really like how these came out. Now we're just going to add our 2x4s to them, glue them down, use some hot glue, and don't be stingy with your glue when you're doing this, because the more you use, the better it will adhere. So we're going to get these put on there, and then we're going to attach our faceplate and then get these onto the lathe and start working them down. But back to what I was saying earlier, we're almost halfway, well, we are halfway through the year already, and we've got some good projects already in the books. Really love how this year has gone. We've got some really cool projects to look forward to. We've done some different things, but I think the one great thing about working in the summer, and if you live in West Texas or down in the western portion of the United States, it's hot. So the great thing about working with epoxy when it's literally 90 plus degrees in your workshop is that the epoxy melts. So melts in a good way, because when you're using the chisels, I want to say for this project, a lot of these shavings just melted off. Usually you can feel the vibration that's on the chisels when you're doing these kinds of projects, but I tend to notice a significant difference in the summer versus the winter. And this project literally took me 2.5 hours from start to finish. From the time I got it onto the lathe, it literally took no time at all. I think I spent more time sanding than actually gouging and making mortises and getting this to where we wanted it to be, because literally the epoxy just tends to melt against the actual carbide tool, which is a good thing because you don't get a lot of issues with it a lot of the time. And now last week's video, you did see that large chunk that came off of the blank, but using the smaller bowls, you tend to not to get to that as much. But here we are trying to pop this off a little bit and having just a lot of problems with it. But this right here demonstrates just how hot it is, because I had to start and stop the lathe because the heat was literally melting onto the chisel itself, and I had to stop and start, get all the glue gooped off of the tip of the chisel there, and then come back and finally shave that down to a nice flat piece. But the glue just tends to melt when you're trying to gouge it off. But here we are actually getting to the actual gouging part here, And this part took no time at all. Like I said, it's melting against the chisel, so we're not having a lot of issues. There's no chatter. There's no, just abrupt instances of just explosions of epoxy. It's just basically hanging on for dear life, and it's just melting against that. And we're getting some really good ribbons, and we're having to start and stop the lathe a couple of times to see the depth and where we're at exactly. But really happy how this turned out overall. This is probably one of the better projects that I've had overall for the year. And I think just using the chisels to their advantage is probably a big part of that. And a lot of that has to do with the weather and how it affects the epoxy. And now going into the winter, we might just build more tables in the winter than we do with the summer projects. So once we got the bowl down to where we wanted to, and then we just switched and started to work on the lid. Last week's project, we didn't have a lid. It was a little bit of a bigger project, so I didn't end up doing that. But this project for today has a lid to it, and we're going to go a little bit shallower on the lid itself. I know I usually make like a large dome when it comes to making the lid, but this project we're going to gouge out a mortise, and we're going to end up using just a smaller piece of epoxy on this one, which I think will aesthetically look a little bit better. But here we are just making the mortise again, and you guys seen me do this plenty and plenty of times already. And this is, one of the projects that I really like to make, which is just, a lid and a bowl, and makes a cool little project. And next week, we're making a table. So if you're curious about what we're doing next week, we're doing a table for next week's project. But don't worry, we're still making bowls as well. And Thursdays, we're still doing pens. So thanks to everybody that's been watching the pen videos. That seems to be a big part of what we do on Thursdays. A lot of pens. I know they're essentially all the same, but I like making them, and I think it's important to make the things that you like. And Thursdays will always be pens, or at least for the foreseeable future. So finishing this up, we're just sizing up the mortise here and getting everything to a nice shape. And then boom, that went on, no issues whatsoever. And then we're just going to make a mortise, and then we're going to flip this onto the lathe, and then we're going to work down that dome that we usually do, but we're going to make it a little bit flatter than we typically do in some of our other projects. But you can see here, mortise goes relatively easy, starting and stopping the lathe. And then poor cameraman, I'm the cameraman, unfortunately, but this is a picture of what my wall looks like. Sorry about that, forgot to edit that out of the video. But here we are, have it flipped over, and now we're just going to work down all of that material, and then just really take a lot more material off than we usually do, and then just scraping off everything to where it's a little bit flatter, not so much of that dome shape that you guys have been used to with the past couple of videos that we've done so far this year. But here's all the epoxy shavings afterwards. Workbench is all messy, got to clean this up, and you can see some of the projects, those 2x4s, are part of the table that we're doing for next week. But here it is. It's like 91 degrees in the workshop. It's hot, very, very hot, and very uncomfortable, but it's just part of it. You got to get through it. And here we are working on our sanding. I've learned that I think I'm only going to go from 320 all the way up to 1800. I was going up to 1000 and 1500 with the dry sanding, but I think I'm getting just a good effect with just going from 320, 400, 600, 800, and just ending it there, and then polishing everything else up with the micro mesh. I think that's just a much better kind of outcome for what we've been doing on the channel. But here we are, just almost done, and then you'll be able to see that cool polish, just hitting it with some wood wax, hydrating that epoxy, and you can kind of see that cool smoky effect from it, I think, and it looks really cool. It's probably one of my better projects that I've done. It's way better than last week's project where I had that giant shard almost hit me in the face, but this one works just as well. And then here, hitting it with the polish, looks really, really good. You can see the ink just kind of just everywhere all over the project, but probably one of our better bowls that we've made. As much as I love this summer, I am already looking forward to the winter when it's not 1,000 degrees inside my workshop. But you can see the cool swirling effect. I think this looks really cool. One of my better projects, and I think this one is a winner for sure. You can see the transition from the bottom to the top of it. And we didn't do our light bright peg in this one, but we might start bringing that back in future projects a little bit later in the year. But hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it. Thursday there will be another pen video, but thanks for everybody that stuck with me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, peace. Alright, so project is done, and this little guy came out really cool. And the camera doesn't do it justice of just how cool this ink effect kind of looks. But man, this is kind of awesome. You can see the swirling effect in there. I still have the wood wax and polish on there, so I'm gonna have to just let that dry. But I'm trying to record the outro so we can have a video for Sunday. I'm kind of behind on stuff. But overall, really happy how this turned out. I think it looks really cool. Awesome ink and like smoke effect. I don't even know what I'm gonna like label this, but not a whole lot of issues. It's like 98 degrees in my workshop right now, so the chisels are just literally melting through the epoxy, so that's kind of a beneficial thing. But really like how this looks. I like the translucency and how it looks, but man, this looks really cool. So hope you guys liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. It's hot in here. I need to go inside and cool off, edit the video. And it's Saturday, so you guys are literally watching this Sunday, so I need to get my stuff together. Anyway, hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace. Boop.